The funeral of Catherine, Duchess of Kent, was held on Tuesday, September 16, 2025, at Westminster Cathedral in London. The service, attended by senior members of the royal family, dignitaries, and representatives of charitable organizations, was historic as the first Catholic Requiem Mass for a royal in modern times. It was a farewell that blended tradition with personal conviction, and at its heart was the presence of her youngest son, Lord Nicholas Windsor, paying a final tribute to his mother. His role at the service represented not only a son's grief, but also the continuation of a Catholic legacy within the royal family. Catherine, Duchess of Kent, died peacefully at Kensington Palace on September 4th at the age of 92. Her death closed the chapter on a life that had been both public and private, defined by her position as the wife of Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, and by her personal faith, her dedication to teaching, and her love of music. The Duchess's 3 children, George, Earl of St. Andrews, Lady Helen Taylor, and Lord Nicholas Windsor, stood together at the cathedral, representing their family's grief and pride. For Lord Nicholas in particular, the day carried profound meaning. His mother had been a guiding influence on his decision to embrace the Catholic faith, and he took on a visible role in the service, honoring the woman who had shaped his life and values. The day began with official announcements from Buckingham Palace. It was confirmed that Queen Camilla would not attend the funeral due to illness. The Queen had been suffering from acute sinusitis and had traveled from Scotland but was advised to rest. A palace spokesperson said Her Majesty deeply regretted her absence and that her thoughts and prayers were with the Duke of Kent and the family. The Duke was said to fully understand the decision and sent his best wishes for her recovery. King Charles and the Prince and Princess of Wales were present, underscoring the significance of the occasion as both a private farewell and a national event. Guests began arriving in the late afternoon. Actresses Rula Lenska and Maureen Lipman were among the first seen entering the cathedral. The Countess Mountbatten of Burma followed, along with writer Geoffrey Archer and his wife Mary. The range of attendees reflected the breadth of lives touched by the Duchess, from the world of culture and literature to the circles of aristocracy and public service. The hearse arrived at the cathedral steps to the sound of a lone piper from the Royal Dragoon Guards playing Sleep, Dearie, Sleep. The choice of music carried layers of symbolism. It had been played at the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II in 2022, and now echoed once more for a royal who had been deeply connected to the regiment. The Duchess served as Deputy Colonel-in-Chief of the Royal Dragoon Guards for many years, and her coffin's arrival to the sound of bagpipes reflected that long-standing bond. The coffin itself was a reflection of her values. Made of wicker woven from English willow, it symbolized simplicity and environmental awareness. Draped in the royal standard with a white ermine border, it marked her position within the royal family. Atop lay a wreath chosen by her family, combining white roses of Yorkshire, representing her birthplace, and yew cuttings from Hovingham Hall, her childhood home. The symbolism was clear. Her farewell was a blend of royal duty and family identity. Inside Westminster Cathedral, the Requiem Mass began. Clergy celebrated her life, faith, and service. Hymns and prayers were chosen with care, reflecting her devotion to music and the Catholic Church. The service was conducted with solemnity, but it was also deeply personal. Readings were taken from Scripture, and tributes were given that highlighted her long journey. From Yorkshire schoolgirl to royal bride, from public servant to private teacher, from Anglican princess to Catholic duchess. Lord Nicholas Windsor played a central role in honoring his mother. Born in 1970, he is the youngest of her 3 children. Like his mother, He is a convert to Catholicism. He has spoken often of her influence on his faith, describing how her example inspired him to make his own spiritual journey. At the funeral, his presence was symbolic. He stood as both a son in mourning and as the heir to the Catholic thread that his mother had woven into the Windsor story. Observers noted the dignity with which he carried out his role. He joined his brother, the Earl of St. Andrews, and his sister, Lady Helen Taylor, in following the coffin into the cathedral. As readings and prayers unfolded, Lord Nicholas listened intently, his expressions reflecting both grief and pride. While he did not give a spoken eulogy, his tribute was expressed through his participation in the liturgy, his visible support for his father, the Duke of Kent, and his quiet acknowledgement of his mother's faith. The Duchess's influence on Lord Nicholas's life has been well documented. Her decision to convert to Catholicism in 1994 was groundbreaking. At the time, it was the first conversion of a senior royal since the early 18th century. Though she stepped back from public royal duties in 2002, she never retreated from her faith. Lord Nicholas followed in her footsteps, formally joining the Catholic Church in 2001. He later married Paola Doimi de Frankopan in a Catholic ceremony, and together they have raised their children in the faith. At his mother's funeral, this shared spiritual path became a defining theme. The Requiem Mass itself was a landmark. Westminster Cathedral had never before hosted a royal funeral. Built in 1903, it is the principal Catholic church in England and Wales. By holding the Duchess's service there, the royal family honored her personal convictions while marking a moment of history. King Charles has often spoken of his commitment to religious tolerance and his desire to embrace Britain's diverse faith communities. His presence at the service was therefore both familial and symbolic. Tributes throughout the day emphasized the Duchess's humility and compassion. She was remembered for her years teaching music in Hull, where pupils knew her simply as Mrs. Kent. She was recalled for her role at Wimbledon, where she presented trophies and consoled players. The most famous example came in 1993, when she comforted Jana Novotná after her loss in the women's singles final. That moment became an enduring image of kindness. For Lord Nicholas and his siblings, such public gestures were matched by private acts of maternal care. In interviews over the years, they described her as a devoted and gentle mother who combined discipline with warmth. Following the service, the coffin was carried down the central aisle of the cathedral. Members of the royal family stood as it passed, leading the congregation in silent farewell. Outside, the piper resumed his lament. The hearse then departed for Windsor, where the Duchess will be laid to rest in the royal burial ground at Frogmore. She will join 33 other members of the royal family, including Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. The burial ground also holds the graves of her in-laws, Prince George, Duke of Kent, and Princess Marina of Greece and Denmark. Reactions poured in after the funeral. The Prince and Princess of Wales released a statement expressing sympathy for the Duke of Kent and his family. They praised the Duchess for her tireless support of causes, particularly her dedication to music education. Charities such as Future Talent, which she co-founded in 2004, paid tribute to her vision and commitment. Former pupils from Hull shared memories of her lessons, recalling her insistence on being treated as an ordinary teacher rather than a royal. For Lord Nicholas Windsor, the day was both public and personal. He honored his mother by standing with his family, supporting his father, and embodying the Catholic legacy she had pioneered within the monarchy. His role was understated but meaningful. In the measured rituals of the Requiem Mass, his presence carried the weight of continuity. It reminded those present that the Duchess's faith values, and compassion did not end with her passing, but live on in her children and grandchildren. Royal commentators noted the historic significance of the occasion. Robert Hardman, writing about the Duchess's life, described her as a figure of quiet strength, one who never courted attention but always commanded respect. He observed that her influence extended beyond the ceremonial duties of royalty into the personal lives of her family and the wider society she served. Lord Nicholas's tribute, silent yet profound, captured that legacy. The Duchess's death marked the end of an era for the Kent branch of the royal family. For decades, she supported her husband, the Duke of Kent, in his duties. Together, they represented the monarchy at countless events. Yet she also redefined the role of a royal consort by stepping back, by teaching, by choosing faith, and by focusing on causes that mattered to her. Her children, and particularly Lord Nicholas, now carry forward the principles she embodied. As the cathedral bells tolled and the day drew to a close, the final image of Lord Nicholas Windsor walking behind his mother's coffin remained etched in the memory of many. It was a moment of filial devotion, but it was also a moment of history. A son's final goodbye became a symbol of continuity, conviction, and the enduring influence of a mother's example. Catherine, Duchess of Kent, will be remembered not only as a royal consort, but also as a teacher, a believer, and a compassionate figure who bridged tradition and modernity. For Lord Nicholas Windsor, her youngest son, the funeral was a chance to honor her life, her faith, and her legacy. In doing so, he reminded the nation that the truest measure of royalty lies not in titles or ceremonies, but in humanity, humility, and the bonds of family.